All right. I'll go ahead and start. Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. اللهم أنت ربي لا إله إلا أنت خلقتني وأنا عبدك وأنا على عهدك ووعدك ما استطعت. أعوذ بك من شر ما صنعت. أبوء لك بنعمتك علي وأبوء بذنبي فاغفر لي فإنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت. Thank you all for coming today, and Eid Mubarak to everyone. Inshallah, today we're going to continue our discussion on the 13th word. I'll be reading from page 156, the book The Words, and we will start from this paragraph, inshallah. All right. Since for the people of belief and worship the grave, ever before their eyes, is the door to an everlasting treasury and eternal happiness. And since by reason of the belief coupon, a ticket from the pre-eternal lottery of divine determining for millions upon millions of pounds worth of gold and diamonds has come up for each of them, they all the time await the word, "Come and collect your ticket," with a truly profound pleasure and real spiritual delight. This pleasure is such that if it is materialized and the seed became a tree, it would be like a private paradise. However, one who abandons the delight and great pleasure due to the drives of youth and chooses in a dissolute and licentious manner temporary illicit pleasures, which resemble poisonous honey, polluted with those innumerable pains, falls to a degree 100 times lower than an animal. Sorry, I noticed I'm reading from my book and I'm not showing you what I'm reading on the screen. So I just read this paragraph up till here. But we're gonna go back to the beginning. This was just the first read. So to understand the paragraph, let's try to sort of illustrate it in our head. So it starts off saying, since for the people of belief and worship the grave. So usually the grave is thought of a place of, not a pleasant place to visit. It only brings sorrow because you remember those you lost. Maybe it resembles nothingness or meaninglessness. It's just not a place you would, wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, I feel so good today. Let me just go visit the graves." However, for the people of belief and worship, so for someone who has belief, and is so confident of that belief, so someone has strong conviction and consistently practices this conviction, they don't look at the grave as something unpleasant. No, instead, they look at it as a door to an everlasting treasury and eternal happiness. So it's kind of saying, oh, you know what? I actually accept this idea or this happening of death. And not only do I accept it, but I'm also excited that I'm going to see an everlasting treasury and eternal happiness. And because I accept it so well, and because I'm excited about it, then the paragraph says, and since by reason of the belief coupon, a ticket from the pre-eternal lottery of divine determining for millions upon millions of pounds worth of gold and diamonds has come up for each of them, they all the time await the word, come and collect your ticket, with a truly profound pleasure and real spiritual delight. So again, if I'm accepting it, and if I'm excited about it, what do I do spending my time here before visiting the grave, since the grave is actually something exciting for me? What do I do with my time here? For someone who has conviction, the author is suggesting you're actually going to sit expecting to hear the words, come and collect your ticket. You're waiting for it. You're actually have that acceptance of receiving that message, or receiving this come and collect your ticket message. And you will already perceive that there is pleasure and delight behind it. So that's one person, a person with belief and conviction. Any comments or questions here before I try to illustrate the other person, or the other attitude, I should say? I see a hand. Go ahead, Brother Adi.
Thank you. Before going into the other paragraph, just I would like to share my opinions about the term belief coupon is described here in the following sentence as the seed, like a seed. What we are doing here in this world, if we look at the universe and use it as a means of acknowledging its creator, then use the word in the universe, the existing universe, in order to acknowledge its source of existence and connect everything to its source. And you start using the universe in his name in order to get to know him better, acknowledge him, which means worship him. When we have this worshipful attitude in our life, what happens? This belief becomes a seed. When I die, my body is in the grave, but my understanding, my consciousness, my spirit will be connected to its creator, and all of my feelings, the expectations of my feelings will look for the satisfaction from the creator of the universe, who by definition, by understanding, as a result of the witnessing of the universe, must be absolute. So only the absolute creator can satisfy my infinite expectations of satisfaction of my feelings, my spirit. That is why this seed, this belief becomes a seed, and when I die, the seed grows into a tree. It means it is rewarded because I acknowledge the owner, the creator, and I will be pleased with encountering him, treating me in my spirit within the capacity of his absolute being and within the capacity of my feelings, which are waiting for infinite satisfaction. That is interesting. Another point that is what I would like to share with you, the death is like is an analogy, putting the seed into the soil. When we put the seed into the soil, it grows into a tree. Exactly the same way, the one who creates the tree out of a seed will create the tree of paradise, eternal happiness, out of the seed of worship, which is the result of one's belief in the absolute creator. The second point I would like to share, this term, the pre-eternal lottery of divine determining. What do you mean? God is taking a lottery? No, that is what I wanted to emphasize on. God is not taking the lottery, but from my perspective, the time of death looks like a lottery. Why? From my perspective. The one who creates it knows it. But from my perspective, I don't know where it is going to happen. Anytime my name may come up out of the lottery. But the one who is really deciding, divine determining, owning the divine determining, knows it, should know it. He's going to create it. He has planned everything accordingly. The universe witnesses to it. But from my side, we should not confuse the subject when the word, the term pre-eternal lottery. Pre-eternal lottery. Why lottery? From my side, but it is pre-eternal lottery of divine determining. Divine determining must know it because divine means absolute being. 2 points I wanted to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you. I find it interesting to think of death as a seed, because usually we think of a seed as something that has all the qualities to turn into life, right? Into a tree, something that's living. So it's almost giving death a living component or a living characteristic. Okay. We can go on. However, one who abandons the delight and great pleasure due to the drives of youth and chooses in a dissolute and licentious manner temporary illicit pleasures, which resemble poisonous honey, polluted with those innumerable pains, falls to a degree 100 times lower than an animal. So my understanding is, okay, now, if you choose the different attitude of abandoning, so not recognizing how death and how the grave and how there's actual eternal happiness, or even that there is, a conscious being promising this eternal happiness. If you choose to ignore all of this and you choose to engage in temporary activities that bring pleasure, while they're bringing pain. So So if we say, okay, person number one has belief and worship and is not really afraid of no, could be afraid of death, of course, but is kind of looking forward to death, or has an understanding that death is not something that will stop his existence or end his existence. That's on one hand. And then on the other hand, someone who's not looking at that or who's not acknowledging that reality, and instead taking what is obviously looking like a pleasurable thing or a fun thing as the ultimate pleasure. This is the most one can get anyway, so why not engage in it? Eventually, let's say, for example, something like gossip, something you do often and you don't notice it, but after a while you can start to feel guilty, or you can start to regret it, or you can start to realize how it's actually, it can get a little painful in terms of it's not benefiting you or your soul. Then you fall to a degree 100 times lower than an animal. So I guess to summarize the paragraph, it's almost asking me a question of, well, do you recognize your reality, that death is going to happen, and that the grave and whatever you think of the grave is actually will determine what you will do today. Yeah, I'll stop here. Any questions or reflections? Does anybody see anything else in this paragraph? No? Okay. All right. Furthermore, such a person will not be like unbelieving Europeans, for if they deny the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, they may recognize the other prophets. If they deny Muhammad, they may recognize the other prophets. And if they do not know God, they may possess some good qualities which are the means to certain perfections. But a Muslim knows both the prophets and his sustainer, and all perfection by means of Muhammad the Arabian. If one of them abandons the Prophet's instruction and puts himself outside his fold, he will not recognize any other prophet, neither will he recognize God, nor will he know any of the fundamentals within his spirit which will preserve his perfections. Okay, here I'm confused, and I need your help to figure this out. The first part, the author is saying such a person will not be like unbelieving Europeans. I'm not sure what person he's talking about. Is this the person who's abandoning his reality? Or is he the person who has belief? Anyone? Okay, I guess I'll keep reading and hopefully it clears up. Keep the question in your mind and let me know if anything comes up for you. All right. Where did I stop? Right. Oh, right. For since Muhammad is the last and greatest of the prophets and his religion, and summons are for the whole of mankind, and since he is superior to all with regard to his miracles and religion, and acts as teacher to all mankind in all matters concerning reality, and has proved this in a brilliant manner for 14 centuries, and is the cause of pride for mankind, a Muslim who abandons Muhammad's essential training and the principles of his religion will most certainly be unable to find any light or achieve any perfection. He will be condemned to absolute decline. Okay, so what I'm getting from this paragraph is the importance of recognizing the prophets, understanding that the news about death or the grave or eternal happiness was actually delivered by the prophet. And abandoning his training or his teaching would then affect me in not being able to, I'm not sure, is it here not being able to actualize this understanding of my reality? I mean, I understand that this understanding of reality, we cannot attribute our understanding of reality that it's coming from nowhere. It's actually coming from someone. And this someone is someone who seems consistent with all the messages. So it is worthy of attending to the message that he's delivering. And by default, since he's delivering the message, then looking at the training he's actually giving. That's all. That's all I have. Anyone else see anything here? Please, Brother Ali, go ahead. I need some help.
Isn't it interesting, the argument the author presents to us says those European unbelievers may possess some good qualities which are the means to certain perfections. Why not a person comes from an Eastern background who were introduced Islam, the religion of Islam, who became familiar with the religion of Islam, why they shouldn't possess good qualities and reach the perfection somehow by why cannot they cannot do it and Europeans can do it? What is the difference, fundamental difference? Is it really true at the same time? What the argument says, if someone is not satisfied with the teachings of the Quran, which the Prophet Muhammad brought to human beings from God, then this person is rejecting the most perfect ideals of a human life, cannot get better option either from his own, as a result of his own investigations, as a result of his own thoughts, or by choosing another way of life standards or living standards, living conditions. The Muslims who are acquainted with Islamic religion, that is also a question nowadays that we can discuss, whether really everybody living in a majority population, where the majority population are declaring themselves as Muslims, whether they are receiving Islamic religion or the religion of Islam, values of religion of Islam, or not is an argument. That is something arguable. We can talk about it. But if someone is interested with the most perfect ideal life principles, if someone rejects this, he will be left with nothing, anything more that he can have another option, because he left the best. That is why they cannot really enjoy the perfection by following another way. But is it the reality of the Muslim world, as they are called nowadays politically? I don't think so. That is what we have to be aware of it. For example, a person living in a place where majority declare themselves as Muslims. What we see there, Islam is not presented as it is. Islam is very much turned into a soup, mixed up with everything. Culture, imitations, negligence, not knowing anything what Islam is at a general level. Very exceptional people specialize nowadays in one or two disciplines of Islamic studies, and mostly they do it, mostly not altogether, for professional purposes, to become to get a position in an academic career, or publish a book, or make some sort of public speeches to people, make a means of livelihood for them. I am not saying that they are not worth anything, but mostly they are not really getting the major teachings of Islam, major teachings of the Quran. Unfortunately, this is the situation, very ambiguous, very blurry situation of the Muslim world. New generation in these conditions are not introduced what the perfect teachings of the Quran to them. If they left Islam because they are dissatisfied with what we have been introduced to, so we cannot say that they are denying the perfect religion. They are not aware of the perfection of the religion in the religion that they are introduced to. There is no perfection but imitation, cultural elements mixed with misguided ideas, nationalistic, racist ideologies. Rather than love of God, mostly comes the patriotism, love of the country, love of political administrations, etc., replaced with many, many irrelevant elements. Most perfect aspect of Islam is nowadays lost. Even Tawheed is very much talked about, but at the same time, Tawheed, the Quran presents, turned it into a story. We are not Christians. We are not accepting Jesus as the Son of God. We don't believe in Son of God. We believe in one God, the Creator, and that's it. That is called Tawheed. Yes, the Creator is one God, but how about within the universe, which are created by this God directly? These details are not touched upon in the culture. So even now the young generation hears all this, the universe is created by one God, okay, but what is happening in the universe is just a natural development. Although these natural conditions might have been established by a creator, but the creator has nothing to do with the universe nowadays. We have to study and we have to understand what is going on in this world. And we don't need Quranic guidance, let alone prophetic, perfect, exemplary life. So we cannot say that they are introduced to Islam. We have to understand this. But theoretically, it is correct. Whoever rejects the best lifestyle cannot gain in another lifestyle which this person can approve, confirm, and live by. It is impossible. So this person has to live in a life which is described in the above paragraph as poisonous honey. So this poisonous honey means temporary enjoyment. When you eat a honey, it is sweet, of course, but it is poisonous. What happens? It is permanent effect, it kills you. In your further life, you will lose for it. In your extended life, will be lost. But temporary pleasure doesn't make you realize that you are losing the permanent life. That is why those people, even they are not Europeans, they are living in the Muslim land or Muslim populations, among the Muslim populations, but because they are not introduced the perfect life style of the Prophet, they are not introduced the perfect understanding of life by the Quran, they don't really take religion seriously, in which case we cannot blame them. They are not aware of it. They are not taught. So they deny the religion of Islam, but they may have better human qualities and perfections by following in another way, maybe just following usually nowadays what's happening, their own human senses. So they say we are humanitarians, humanitarian people. It means we, in the sense that we use human senses as our guidance. To a certain extent, it is true. Better than not using human senses as one's guidance. That is, in a certain extent, it is true. But to reach the perfection for the human senses, one has to have an absolute source, which is the description of Tawheed in the Quran, but unfortunately, they are not aware of it. So on one hand, a corrupt Muslim community, on the one hand, better conditioned humanitarian, humanist or humanitarian, following the human senses. Actually, humanitarianism is a different thing. But following the human senses and being honest within themselves in a better position, that is the problem of this age. We have to be realistic. We have to accept. We have to blame ourselves. We couldn't really introduce Quran because we didn't study the Quran. We are not aware of what Quran is teaching. Really, seriously, we just hear cultural information about Quran, stories about the life of some companions of the Prophet, and we think we are aware of what the Quran is teaching, what the prophetic life or how the prophetic life looks like. We have to blame ourselves. This is just false understanding, and we cannot blame those children, new generations of the Muslim population, because they are not satisfied with Islam. There may be a few exceptions, deliberately struggling against Islam as a religion, but majority of those young generation, as I can see, are not really deliberately struggling against Islam, against religion, but they are under the influence of these propagandists. But at the same time, they may be satisfied with what they said, but they are not, we cannot accuse them why they are not satisfied with the way that Islam, religion of Islam, is presented to them, because the way the religion of Islam is presented to the young generation does not make sense at all. We have to accept this. At least following the human senses makes sense for them. Yeah, because they are not aware of the teachings of the Quran. If someone was aware of the teachings of the Quran, really studies it seriously, then of course he cannot really satisfy himself with just following human senses without the guidance of their creator. They cannot really get this full satisfaction out of it, because they know that the creator of the human senses are giving them perfect guidance. We have to make this distinction. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Suhail.
Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, this is interesting. He writes this, and that's not coincidental, I guess. I went to Eid prayer today, and you know, I know somebody who I went with and met them. And he's like, he has doubts. He's a young person. He has questions, and I can't blame him. And because like when I was listening to the Imam give a talk, I mean, it didn't make any sense. He essentially was saying, "Oh, I mean, it's typical traditional Muslim stuff." But he's saying, "Oh, look how blessed people are who are Muslim."
I don't hear you, Suhail. Suhail, if you are speaking, I don't hear you.
I think he's reconnecting.
Sorry, I don't know where you missed, where I dropped off. Something happened to my internet.
Essentially the Imam, and then that's it.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if you heard this part what I was saying, and I was listening. I kind of tuned him out after like a little bit, but I mean, he was saying, "Oh, look how," I mean, part of what he was saying, "Look how blessed you are. You've received the prophetic message, and you know, God's graced you with Islam. And look at all those people who are unbelievers outside who don't know the prophetic message, and then also they've heard the prophet." Then again, I was like, I don't know what they've heard, but nonetheless, he's like, they've heard them and they don't believe, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, that's what Ali Murmur was saying. You know, I had went with somebody who has like his own concerns about just not even really Islam, just religion in general. And like, he wants to be certain, but then like what you hear there doesn't convince him, and I can't blame him. So, you know, I don't think, my experience, I don't think people are actually presented Islam or what the prophetic message actually is. It's just, you know, what I was trying to explain to this person, it's just generally just cultural. It's just some sort of presumed knowledge, some, inherited knowledge, and then presume it to be right, or you think it's right, and then, at least for this imam, he studied somewhere and got a job, and now he's preaching the same thing that he thinks is right and telling people you should think the same thing to be right. So I actually kind of, even though it's Eid, I kind of felt depressed this morning after listening to it, but.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. If there are no more comments or reflections here, we can go ahead and move on. Okay. And so you unfortunates who are addicted to the pleasures of the life of this world and with anxiety at the future, struggle to secure it and your lives. If you want pleasure, delight, happiness, and ease in this world, make do with what is licit. This is sufficient for your enjoyment. You will surely have understood from other parts of the Risale Nur that in each pleasure, which is outside this and is illicit, lies 1,000 pains. If the events of the future, for example, of 50 years hence were shown in the cinema in the same way they show at the present time the events of the past, those who indulge in vice would weep, filled with horror and disgust at those things which now amuse them. I feel like this paragraph is pretty straightforward, continuing to describe that if one is addicted to the pleasures of life and the cost of this addiction is not understanding or not seeing reality or not appreciating reality, and not knowing that there is something more than just the pleasures of life, and denying that these pleasures actually bring pain. If you're in that state of mind, you're almost like always seeking pleasure, yet a part of you knows very well how painful it is or how meaningless it can be. So now the author is suggesting, if you really want pleasure or delight or happiness and ease in this world, I think ease is should be the emphasis here, then just you can do what is licit, what is essentially good for your soul or good for your existence. This would be sufficient. So then you wouldn't be worried about the future and you wouldn't be concerned about the past. And you can find something settling about the present time. Anyone see anything here or has a question here? Go ahead, Brother Ed.
I wondered why the author says, in each pleasure which is outside this, and it means licit. Of course, we have to decide what licit is. Licit, which is illicit, if someone follow outside of licit pleasures, lies 1,000 pains. First of all, we have to define what licit pleasure is. Licit pleasure, for example, if I'm invited to a house, a simple example, a house, I am here and waiting for the host to offer me something whatever I need, and I will accept and thank the host and enjoy it. I don't feel as a human being, not as a believer, not according to religion, no. Just as a human being. I don't feel any discomfort about it because here I am a guest, the host accepted me in, I am here, he offered me, and I followed my human senses and thanked him and enjoyed my food. That is listen. Now let's apply it to the host of the universe who invited us. We didn't come and get into this life of the world by force. We are brought. We are invited. So I found myself in a house of the universe. And if I acknowledge the owner of this universe who brought me into his house, his property, and offering me some benefits in this world. Of course, depending on my needs of my body, depending on the needs of my feelings, human feelings, they are all provided in the creation by the host of this universe, the hospice of this universe or house of this universe. So the universe is al-Bayt in the Quran, we have to understand. And represented in the universe, the owner is represented in the form of Kaaba. That is another side subject. It's interesting. Anyway, the Kaaba is not out because it is Baytullah. But فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ هَذَا الْبَيْتِ can be understood as classical scholarship understood it as so that they will worship the Rabb, the Lord of this house. And they said, this is Kaaba. I say, no, not necessarily limited to Kaaba. Kaaba is Baytullah, representing that there is no Allah in the universe. The owner is not of the nature of the universe. So the Hadha al-Bayt here, that's a light, a sort of side knowledge, but it's important to be aware of it. The Bayt of the universe, it means universe is Baytullah in one respect. Kaaba is only the representative of the owner of this universe within the universe that you cannot find the owner within the universe, representing the negative side of it, negation side of it. Negation, la ilaha. It means if we understand Kaaba as the Baytullah, that is la ilaha. If you understand the universe is the Baytullah, that is la ilaha. Illallah, the universe refers to its source of existence. That is illallah. That is an interesting image of understanding the Bayt, the word Bayt in the Quran. Now, I really enjoyed it and wanted to share with you. So the house of this universe points to its creator. If I acknowledge its creator and thank him and enjoy whatever he provides me with and benefit from them, that is licit. So I say that, oh, thank you, the owner provided for me, and he is an absolute being, infinite being, so he can satisfy all my expectations that I cannot find here. I cannot find any satisfaction for my expectations of the eternal satisfaction. The universe cannot do that, but I am sure he can do it. If he gives me this, he will give me tomorrow as well. It means after I die. Why? He brought me here. He's entertaining me here. He's giving me, and I have a good relationship because I thanked him, I acknowledged him, and I thanked him. This is the licit things which satisfy us. But if someone tries to satisfy themselves as a guest in a house, let's come to our simple worldly example, and he is invited to a house. He came in and looked that there is something interesting out there, and the host is not offering them to him. He steals them with the fear that included in it, the fear that if the host sees it, oh, he will be in trouble. This pain is the pain of denying the Creator and doing something without his permission, not acknowledging his authority over the things that you have stolen only, but also denying his ownership and not thanking him because you denied his ownership in your attitude. So you cannot thank him. By doing so, you contradict your human feelings. Look, I am a thief here in the house of a person who is really providing me many immense things, but he doesn't want me to use this one. That is why he didn't offer me this, but I have stolen it and consumed it. This pain that human feelings injects, imposes us is unbearable as a human being. We can, because I cannot really kill my consciousness, and I cannot really dump my consciousness unless I am drunk. Otherwise, in my normal life as I am as a human being, I cannot enjoy it because my consciousness always reminds me that you are a traitor in this house. You are cheating the best host. He is offering you everything, just only one thing. He asked you not to approach this, not to touch this, and you have stolen it. That is from one side. How about if I got drunk, keep myself busy with my business, with my work in the world, keep running after from one place to another, planning my holidays, etc., keeping myself busy, busy, busy. So do I enjoy it? Not at all. If you keep running after things that you cannot really reach them, you cannot enjoy them. You have to be comfortable. In both cases, whether we follow a drunken life or we are always not acknowledging, if we don't acknowledge the owner of this universe, what we do, we have to always experience the pain of being a thief, following an illicit traitor's life in this world. Traitors is really doing or rebelling the owner of the universe and his will. That is why we have to understand the feeling side of the deniers. How can they enjoy it, although apparently their bodily life may seem to be enjoying, but inside, they cannot get rid of this pain of following an illicit life. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate the analogy of the house and the host. And now I like the distinction between the different attitudes someone can have. I think since we're approaching the end, I'll just go ahead and read this very short sentence. And if anybody has any questions or comments, please let me know. Those who wish to be permanently, eternally happy in this world and the next should take as their guide the instruction of Muhammad within the bounds of belief. All right, I think this is it for today. Any questions, any comments really quick? No? Okay. All right, thank you again, everybody, for coming. And I hope you will enjoy the rest of your Eid, inshallah. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم.
Assalamu alaikum.